22, 6 p.m. General Committee meeting at City Hall. We will go around the room and identify ourselves and what areas we represent in the city. Mr. Bradley, you're up.
John Bradley, City Attorney.
Jesse Ecknerall, Chief of Operations. Jason Gallo, Administrative Services. Mayor Jamie Clary. Russ Edwards, Alderman Ward 3.
Jim Waters, Alderman Ward 6.
Sarah Locke, Public Works Director.
Keith Freed, Planning Director.
Steve Brown, Alderman Ward 4. Thank you all. We have an agenda. April 12th minutes.
So move.
So moved. Second. We both vote in favor of that. All right. Ordinance resolutions, ordinance 2022-09 and ordinance relative to term limits for members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So moved.
So move. Like to hear from the sponsor.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
It's supposed to be you.
Pardon?
Sir, it's supposed to be you.
Your name, my name's not Clary.
You had said maybe 2 or 3 months ago that you wanted to be the sponsor of this.
Yeah, but it's not running now, so
You're exactly right.
I'm gonna leave it up to you.
We'll have to fix that soon. A couple things there is the board has to pass this twice for it to be on a referendum. If it passes a referendum, then it's law. It does not impact the people who are elected in 2022 if it passes. It won't affect anybody until the 2024 election. It's not retroactive by any means. The clock starts with the people who are elected in 2024. We heard from several folks and for several reasons that they wanted this out on the ballot. One of the reasons was that somebody who lives in one ward, they are impacted by an alderman from another ward. They never get to vote on that person. 2 terms is not a magical number. We did some research on some other areas, and 2 sort of seemed to be what was common. The reason that I suggest 3 for a mayor is because the mayor is up for election from everybody in the city every election. Unlike an alderman who only 2 out of 12 are you only can vote for 2 out of 12 of the aldermen from what we're doing. That's the highlights. And what I should say, I'm not gonna be affected by this. I'm gonna be gone long before I serve 3 more terms. So,
Couple of questions to the sponsor here, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The 10 years that you listed, is that because, let's take for instance, Ward 2, that lady, that's what you're referring to in essence?
exactly.
Okay, so be sure I do about that.
Similar to what the US Constitution has with the president.
Okay, 2024 is when it goes into effect.
The people who are elected in 2024 will be the first impacted by it. I guess technically, if somebody were appointed like December of 2022, but they still wouldn't have served more than 2 years.
If you're saying 2024 is when it goes into effect, it's not retroactive. Why are we doing it now instead of waiting till 2022? I mean, will this go to the election commission as soon as the board approves it?
It will go to, it'll go to the election commission as soon as the board approves it. They will put it on the ballot. It has to be on a ballot of, John, help me, either August or November. Is that correct?
I would assume it'd be the November ballot if we get this done the next month.
It'll be on this year's ballot? It will?
And it doesn't take effect until after the election in which it's adopted. So if it's passed in November of 2022, then it would first apply, like the mayor says, in November of 2024.
Okay. So I got, Mr. Chairman.
And each vote before the city council has to have, board member only has to have 9 votes too. It has to have
2/3,
vote.
2 meetings.
Yeah, 2 meetings, 2/3 vote.
And this is just a referendum to put it on the ballot to allow the citizens to vote. It's not saying this is going to happen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's giving the citizens the opportunity to vote with it.
Whatever they've approved in the referendum will be what it is. So
Right.
if you don't like these numbers, this is
Right.
the time to fix it, something like that. Because once it's approved, a referendum is going to be like a part of our charter at that point.
Will there be a public hearing on the first reading, Keith?
Oh, John, probably, it's an ordinance, right?
Yes. Typically, we would not have a public hearing. We could. I mean, we could have a
Second,
public
usually.
That's, I'd suggest we do, if you don't mind.
hearing. It was to me.
Huh?
That's fine with me, Mr. Waters.
Maybe who's in charge, I don't know, I just live here, but it will be on public hearing at our first meeting. First BOMA meeting
Well,
in
it's,
2 weeks.
yeah, as John was saying, when when you had the first reading, there's usually not a public hearing.
Okay,
That's usually at the second reading, but if BOMA wanted to have a public hearing at the first reading, you could.
Whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah,
it's
whatever you want to
immaterial
do.
to be which meeting, I was just saying
Yeah.
the next meeting, but
Now, it's usually a second reading,
Okay.
typically.
I'll just remember, we have citizens' comments at both those meetings. We have now limited our public hearing time to 5 minutes as well as citizens' comments. So anybody wants to speak to it or against it could come to citizens' comments. We don't
either
necessarily,
meeting.
yeah, we don't have to have a public hearing specifically for this because you still have the opportunity to speak.
I understand.
Question, Mr. Chairman. So if this were on the August ballot, could it apply to those elected in 2022 in November?
2024.
Guess it could.
It
I
could.
don't know if we're in a hurry or
It probably wouldn't be able to happen that fast. I'm not talking to Lori Ashton to see how much time she has to have, but in theory, if it passed in the August election, I suppose it could. It's just, the statute says the next general election. So we got a general election in August, also a general election in November.
I had always thought it'd be November just because our city election is in November and that's when the most Hendersonville citizens would be out voting. But
That would make the most sense. I mean, I think that, you can make that a part of your motion.
could you add me as a sponsor to this one?
let me talk to Mr. Waters first.
Must be added.
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll take it.
Put both of us on it if you don't
There you
mind.
go. Okay.
Now, that's the reason I asked that question. He just followed up with another question I did, but that's what I was getting at. What you was asking just now.
Yeah.
Are you saying it should be the 2022 on the ballot?
I guess if it were on the August ballot, I mean, I'm not in a big hurry for this, but I guess if we're on the August ballot, but it sounds like it may be better to be on the November ballot than apply in 2024.
Okay,
I doubt the August elections will have that many more people vote than this May election did.
Yeah, I would agree with you. On presidential year, so. Okay,
Chairman, I can next we'll move it on to BOMA with our approval recommendation. I'm sorry.
second. Both in favor. Mr. Freed.
Okay.
Next, we have item B, resolution 2022-24, resolution authorizing Handmade Market to use the grounds of City Hall for its market activities.
Mhm.
Second.
How we got here was soon after I came into office, Chip Moore had a Earth Day event and asked me for permission to do that. Kay Franklin, our city recorder, provided me a policy that Mayor Foster had, which allowed me to prove that event being used for city hall grounds. It was 2019 when Danielle approached me about having her handmade marketplace. She had done something similar at Gene Brown Elementary School, wanted something more visible. I pulled up that same policy, saw that it was within my authority to do it, approved it. The next time she did it, David Moore felt like he should be the one to approve it, and he did. And she agreed in all our emails. I don't have an agreement per se. I've got emails back and forth. I can give those to you. I've got her insurance letter, her current insurance letter that she's provided to us with multiple dates on there. I was surprised when I saw the code that conflicts with that policy. Obviously, code trumps the mayor's policy. I can't decide to do something that the board doesn't authorize me to do. So at this point, I think we have a couple options. She has vendors, she has a couple dates coming up. We have a couple options. Y'all can tell her no. You could tell her no. The impact on some of those vendors, I think would be significant. These are mostly home-based businesses, folks that don't have a storefront, folks that look forward and sell products similar to this in other situations. We could say yes, but in general, we do have some inconsistencies about who approves folks that make money off Hendersonville property. And I'll give you, very simple examples. We've got a request for somebody to put in an ice vending machine at Sandersbury Park. And that was something I hadn't thought about until you sent me the email thinking that's city property as well. I can't approve that. If I can't approve the one at City Hall, according to that code, I can't approve the one at Sandersbury Park either. I think the easiest thing is to allow this and then us come back and figure out the inconsistencies. I think these things is for the board to allow this. At this point, I don't think I can allow it. I think it has to be the board's decision. Now that I know what the code says.
Well, I've been pushing you the past month about that, and so we'll just call it what it is. Just simply for the fact that that has come up in reading that code, we've had someone on city property making money without a written agreement and without insurance on file.
I had the insurance. I had the agreement.
You said you didn't have agreement.
I said
you had
I
emails.
said I have an email and she agreed to all of our policy.
That's not an agreement. Not approved by him. If we're going to have to do that according to code, all contracts and agreements have to go through, from what I read again, through the.
Where is it in code?
I don't have it on me right now, Mayor.
I don't think it's in code that all contracts agreement has to be approved. What my policy is that he initials them.
Mr. Bradley, you want to weigh in on that?
It's been our practice for the city attorney to approve agreements that the city enters into. I'm sure there are some that have slipped through the cracks that I've seen that do not have my signature on them, but that's been our practice.
Yeah, but practice isn't code. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good practice.
Okay, here's what my concern has been. I don't necessarily want to stop this now that's been started because there are so many local folks out there making quilts and doing this and doing that. Okay. My concern is that the city makes zero money off of it.
Okay.
On the ice vending machine that you're talking about, the city does make money off of it. Okay. It's just like the food boxes at the dog park. The city gets a percentage of that. The duck feeding boxes at the lake, the city gets a percentage of that. Any agreement that we've entered into like that in the past that I can find, we get a percentage. It may be small, but it's still a percentage. Just for the, you've got the parking spaces, you've got the lots, you've got the visibility, the same way at the dog park. You walk up, you want to give your dog a snack, there it sits right in front of you. So number one, I think we should get a small fee for allowing that to happen for anybody. But my biggest concern is liability insurance holding the city harmless anytime a vendor steps on that parking lot to make profit for anything that they're doing for the city. And that's just not proof of insurance. Excuse me. That's just not proof of insurance. That's a certificate of insurance with the city's name on it.
Question.
Sir,
Does the other vendors that you just mentioned, do they have insurance? Are we protected from these others?
yes, sir.
We are.
Well, I can only basically talk through parks because I'm the parks liaison. But I have talked to the parks director and some other, yes, each one of them has a certificate of insurance for city harmless.
You're saying this one should have too.
I'm saying this one and anybody else
Yep.
that does business on city property
That's what
that we allow to do that. You were in insurance business.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
So that's my biggest concern is I just want to make sure that agreements are legal on both sides, and neither you nor I are an attorney. We do have an attorney. And number two, that insurance is provided to protect this city. Our insurance carrier also wants that. our insurance carrier actually would like to have certificate of insurance from each one of those vendors that she's allowing on property to work through her promotion. They don't necessarily, that has to be a fact, but they certainly said that it would be helpful. They do want anybody like that, they do want a certificate of insurance with holding the city harmless. That's my concern.
You're right. You're right on.
But the way I've read that statute, and the reason I brought it up and I checked with Mr. Bradley first, was that it really feels like it should take an act from BOMA for any of those things to happen. Personally, whether it's in this committee room or in there, I think the city should receive a small fee for that. And definitely the insurance needs to be the certificate of the city named. So, Mr. Clark.
Well, you're right on target, Mr. Chairman. I'd make a motion that we sit it on the BOMA with these stipulations that you just mentioned. They say what's goose for the gander is good for the goose or something like that. So that would be my
It's
motion.
good for the goose, good for the gander. I don't know that I necessarily understand that, but I've heard that.
I don't know what it means either. That would be my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do you know, well, we're talking about one specific thing. We're talking about Handmade. I think just that specific thing is, do you know, is she willing to give the city a small percentage?
I don't know. She wasn't asked to do that under me or Dave Lamar, so this is the first time we've asked about it.
What was your suggestion that we go ahead and go back to where 5 minutes ago, we go ahead and do this, then we relook at.
Yeah, obviously my policy that I adapted from Mayor Foster, that probably needs to go to the board because my policy, it's inconsistent with what the code is. And so we need to look and see sometime in the future how we adjust those to make sure that we're doing it the right way. But for now, I think we've got to address her situation. We'll deal with the other stuff later on.
Okay, so my suggestion was, and I think you agreed to this, if we both agree on it, because there's just two of us, that we send this recommendation to the board, but we add that I think the standard in parks is 5%. Not 100% sure, but I believe it's about 5% that we get from each one of those vendors. It may be a little bit more in some. Jesse, do you, in conversation and stuff, I think it's about 5% that we get 5% of, or we just charge a flat fee, whatever that would be.
Before we vote, am I correct? Is it going to be on this property right here?
It is.
In this parking lot.
Yeah.
Is she coming in the building? Is the building
No,
open? The
no.
building's not open. They've
Not
got
at all.
a porta
I was
potty.
very clear about that. She understands that.
I'm extremely sorry to interrupt. Can somebody sit here on this meeting?
So what was it?
Are people allowed to sit in on this?
Absolutely.
Her? I suppose.
Thank you for asking.
Yes. I'll sit in on it.
Hi, how are you?
Did you bring snacks?
Did you not have a password?
Did better if you had snacks. Okay. Get back to where we're here. About for the lack of, it would be hard to figure a percentage, but she's having, I don't know, 40, 50 vendors charging. Do you know what she's charging?
I don't.
I've heard 50, I've heard 100.
I don't.
I don't know. Just for the sake of argument, I'll say a $200 fee. And certificate of insurance with an agreement that is approved, Mr. Bradley, for her to hold Handmade Market. Is that right? Handmade Marketplace, Handmade Market.
Yeah,
You got me confused.
For the duration of this year.
Okay.
But she's got 3 or 4 more, something like that.
Something like that.
For the duration of this year. A $200 fee. With an approved agreement that we all can agree on, or our attorney will agree that's a good agreement. And that she will provide a $1 million certificate of insurance holding the city.
I second that motion.
Anything we need to add to that?
Like that's what you want to do.
Keith,
All
did
in
you know
favor?
that?
Yeah, you want me to kind of recap that?
Yeah.
Okay, for what?
Yeah,
So,
recap what I just said, because I may not have understood it. Jolene, tell me now.
so the addendums to the motion made would be that this covers the forwards to BOMA, and that this will cover for the rest of 2022. And that it would include $1 million proof of insurance, hold harmless, that would hold harmless the city of any liability. And then also a fee of $200. Is that per event or just for the rest of the year? The
I'm
rest of
good
the
with
year.
just the rest of the year,
So
Michelle.
it's $200 to cover for the rest of the year, and then some similar agreement like there is with the Parks Department. That would be that she would sign for those vendors.
And that,
Good.
that's just good through 2022,
Yep.
2023.
Yeah, so that's
We'll start all
everything.
over.
Yeah, so
Just
that's
this year.
everything. Yeah, so that's everything that you all have
Yeah.
have talked about.
All in favor?
Pardon?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Me.
Yeah. She has. What's her next one? End of the month, isn't it?
Let's see, 5/21.
You got 25.
Yeah, 5/21, 8/20, 9/17. Oh.
Yeah.
Take that tonight.
Well, I mean, if we're going to, we either don't let her do it on the 21st or we tackle it tonight. We're not to tackle it tonight, but I don't, you know. What's her next one? May,
21st.
and then one after that.
then, August 20th.
She's skipping June and July. I don't think we're necessarily ready to tackle this tonight for the simple fact I don't. This is the 10th. That's 11 days.
She has a banner, well, our Parks Department has her banner out at Veterans Park right now. So she's advertising for it for the 21st right now.
If you add it, we'll address it tonight.
Put the burden on me.
Yeah.
Do you want to make a motion to add it?
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Well, I don't, you know. I want 60 vendor ladies mad at me. Mad at you, I don't want mad at me.
You took the job.
No. I guess one thing that between now and the meeting tonight is you need to make a phone call and see if she's willing to do all that, or we're just wasting time voting on this.
Okay, I'll see if I can get hold of her.
Okay, resolution 2025, resolution offering King KC Creations to use the city's logo on items it produces for sale. I will make a motion to move it from the floor if I can get a second for discussion.
What was the motion?
It's on the table so we can talk about it,
Second.
not to pass it.
Now, explain it to me.
Explain it.
Explain it to me. If I'm gonna vote on it, explain it to me, John.
I'm gonna let the mayor.
I'll do it.
He is a sponsor, that's right.
So the lady who was here, Anessa, a month ago, she had contacted me prior to that, asking if she could use the city's logo on T-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, some tote bags. And I very much appreciate the fact that she asked first. And she knew how to go about it correctly and said that she feels like it'd be good publicity for the city, as well as it will help her make money. She has a current business and puts different designs on those items already, but has not had permission, has not printed the city's logo on there. So I brought her to y'all a month ago. Y'all heard from her. She showed you pictures of what it is that she wants to do. And y'all seem receptive, so we drew up this item to have y'all consider it. Only thing that I might add, this is my fault, I didn't catch this, two things. I feel like we need to limit where she can use this. I don't think it should be just open-ended, that she can use it on anything. And the other thing is, if she's making money on it, sort of goes with the concept of students, I feel like the city should charge something for it. I was more concerned about just an endless group of people who ask permission to use our logo without the city ever getting compensated for that. And if we allow her to use it without compensation, I think it's hard for us to expect the next people to pay for it. So those are probably two things I would add, is that we restrict where she can use the logo, and that we expect some sort of compensation. I have no idea what the right amount is.
I'm confused. It's so close to the one we just talked about, 24. As far as the language.
Mhm.
Do you agree? I mean,
I do. But the one thing that I agreed to that, the language is, but I can tell you, I am not in favor of this resolution. Simply because we haven't made that decision. We've been allowing the other lady to do that. And I feel it would be fair that we go ahead and try to get this moved through tonight if she's willing to get that passed, so she can continue the 2 or 3 more that she has scheduled out for the year. It causes her a lot of headache and heartache of trying to get a hold of people saying, no, we're not going to do this on the 21st, and so on and so forth. We have not approved this. This is a request to be approved. We haven't approved anything like this before. So there is wording similar, but the situation's different. This hasn't started. The other situation has
I
started.
understand. I got you. Okay.
And I guess I'll go on further and tell you why I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea that necessarily anybody makes money off the city logo, and or even if we charge them 5%, 10%, whatever it is, to reimburse us. I think that's a can of worms that puts a whole lot of people out there. Maybe I can make $50 off the city logo and I give the city 5, so I've still made $45 on the bottom line. And no, I think we have to have, anytime the city logo goes on anything, I think it's got to be really approved by us and everything looked at, instead of just throwing a keychain or a t-shirt or a cup or whatever it is. I talked to sign people that would like to have official blanket where they can use the city logo on things that are promoted in the city, for businesses that, they don't necessarily want to have to go through this and pay a percentage and do that. We don't allow anybody else to do it. So I think it's just, I do agree with the mayor. I'm glad she asked, because I've seen city logo used on stuff that we shouldn't. But promoting one business with city logo over another business of similar who might want to do that, we've opened up a can of worms. This is going to keep coming back to us every single time somebody wants something. I have nothing against this lady.
Well, I don't know.
So
I'm gonna vote no.
You just ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of resolution 2022-25? All opposed? No.
No.
Resolution 2022-26, resolution amending the job classification list and pay table with respect to the traffic engineer position. I am the sponsor. Director Roth or our public works director explained it. I'm assuming that's why you're here.
That's, yeah, that's the item. So this is a vacancy currently within Public Works Department, and in reviewing the organizational structure, since the city engineer role was previously retitled Assistant Public Works Director / City Engineer, I believe it was appropriate to reorganize the traffic engineer to report directly to the Assistant Public Works Director, City Engineer. And along with that, to have the ADA coordinator, which currently is shown as reporting to the traffic engineer, report directly to the Assistant Public Works Director, City Engineer. And so with that, that would result in a pay grade change from a 24 to a 23.
No question.
No questions?
No, sir.
You good with this? All in favor? Aye. Nothing else?
That's it. You did good again.
Adjourn.
So move.